Doll in the Garden by Mary Downing Hahn. It was published by Clarion Books in 1989 and was the winner of the William Allen White Award in 1992. It's fantasy, it's 128 pages long, and I think it's appropriate for 4th through 6th graders. Characters in this story: Ashley is a 10-year-old girl dealing with the loss of her father, who died from cancer. Her mother is another character, also dealing with the loss of her husband. Mrs. Cooper is the mean old landlady they're renting an apartment from. Christy is the 7-year-old neighbor. We have Louisa, who we find out is a ghost of a little girl. She's, I think, 9 or 10, and her kitty cat Snowball. The story takes place in the 80s in a small town called Monkton Mills. The action surrounds Mrs. Cooper's backyard and her overgrown rose garden, the hedgerow, and the field behind that. Ashley and her mother moved to this little town to get a new start on life. Ashley's mother's trying to finish her dissertation. And they move into this apartment, and Mrs. Cooper is this mean landlady who says, "Don't go into my garden." Ashley befriends the neighbor girl, Christy, and of course their curiosity gets the best of them, and they go into the garden, and they're led by this white cat named Snowball, and they find a doll. And Ashley takes the doll, China doll, back to her room and hides it. And Christy is not happy that Ashley took the doll, so she tells Mrs. Cooper. But in the meantime, Christy is led by this cat in through the rose bush, beyond the hedgerow, and then she crosses into another dimension where she meets Louisa, who is a ghost. And we find out that Louisa is the little girl who owned the China doll, and she's searching. She wants her China doll back, and she would love to see her friend Carrie again. So through the course of the book, we find out that Mrs. Cooper is indeed Carrie, the old friend, and Christy and Ashley convince her to step through time with them and give the doll back to Louisa, so Louisa can be at peace and Mrs. Cooper can be at peace also. There are no illustrations in this time slip chapter book, but the author, Mary Hahn, does a wonderful job of descriptive writing. Here's a little example. I eased the back door open and tiptoed down the steps. They were already cool and damp with dew, and I shivered as a little breeze puffed my nightgown away from my legs. All around me, the night lived its secret life. So very descriptive writing where the reader can engage their imagination to see the scene. I think there are a few themes in this book: grief and coping with grief. Friendship is a recurring theme, and how you treat your friends. And I think a major theme is forgiveness. Ashley and her mother need to forgive their father and husband for dying too young and leaving them. And Mrs. Cooper needs to forgive herself for taking the doll from Louisa, and also needs to forgive Louisa for leaving her so young. This is a good book for children because it deals with a lot of hard subjects, but in an engaging manner. The time slip aspect of the book and the ghosts make it an interesting read. And I think it's just, you know, it talks about some challenging themes: friendship and grief. As far as relating it myself, I mean, I have regrets that I live with. Maybe we all may have mistreated somebody. I have a stepbrother who I didn't see for about 4 years in a hospital, and I always will regret that I let all that time slip by. So I think it helps people deal with some rough emotions. I think this would be a great activity for a vocabulary activity, probably for older children, 5th and 6th grade. Before reading this book, maybe as a group project, you could make a word wall of vocabulary words, and then the kids could do some activities to learn those vocabulary words, like rainbow spelling, or making a crossword puzzle, or writing sentences using those words. And that is The Doll in the Garden.